Welcome to the 3P's podcast, where we explore how people, property, and profits come together to shape the future of fire and security. I'm Scott Elkins, CEO of Zeus Fire and Security, and your host for today. On this show, we're going to dive into the real-world challenges and opportunities facing our industry as we talk with the people who are out there making a difference. Today kicks off a special three-part series with someone who's made a significant impact here at Zeus and across the fire and life safety space, Greg Breyer. Greg is our VP of Design and Compliance and one of the most respected voices in the industry. He brings a rare combination of boots on the ground experience, technical expertise, and strategic insight from decades as a first responder, educator, and corporate leader. Throughout this series, we'll explore new fire system installations, monitoring takeovers, and test and inspection programs, breaking down what commercial property leaders really need to know. If you care about protecting people, safeguarding property, and driving smart, sustainable profits, this conversation is for you. Let's get into it. Greg, we're thrilled to have you on today's program. Welcome.
Thank you, Scott. I'm excited to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to join the conversation and speak about how we can protect people, property, and profits when we deliver high-quality fire alarm system installations.
Yeah, and that's really where it starts, right? High-quality fire alarm system installation. So I'll start with a big question that could probably fill the hour.
Sure.
But we're only going to spend a few minutes on it, but it's a big topic. Okay. And that is, kind of walk me through how we begin and get to the end of a project, whether or not we're talking to a building owner, an EC, a property manager. They have a need for a fire alarm system. They call Zeus. How do we get them from beginning to end?
Great topic and great question. It is a big question. One of the first things that we need to remember when we talk about a fire alarm system is it's a system that's required, that really differentiates from the other systems that we provide that are desired by our clients. A fire alarm system is a code-driven, often reactive system that protects people, property, and profits. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what a fire alarm system is first. It's a series of widgets. You have inputs, and those are devices that are in a building like a smoke detector or a pull station, something that ties to a fire alarm panel to tell the panel that there's something wrong in a building. Then the other side of the system is outputs. And that's where we have strobes and horns and things that make noise that tell people inside it's time to go outside, right? When there's smoke inside, let's go outside. Then the third piece is a communicator, or how we communicate those signals to a central station so that 911 services can be dispatched. It's a fire alarm system, and how do we get involved in it really depends if we're looking at a construction market space or an end user space. In the construction market space, there's a project that goes out to bid, and they're looking for different contractors that can either design the system or install it. Here at Zeus, we're able to do it all. We can design a system. We have teams who are able to go out and install the system. They're able to ensure that it operates the way that the code requires to ensure that we minimize risk and protect the people, property, and profits of the clients that we're serving. Then ultimately, it plays a part in public safety. When we talk about end users, same types of systems, Scott, the difference really is instead of us coming in with other contractors during a construction type of operation, we're typically supporting clients who have a fire alarm system that has been aged out or has some sort of deficiency and needs to be replaced.
So when we really talk about installing a system, it's code-driven. It has to be designed. We've got to put all those components together.
Yes, sir.
We have to make the system work. Right, it's got to be tested and inspected, and then ultimately monitored. And at Zeus, we monitor from our own UL-listed monitoring centers.
Great point, Scott, and great clarification. We have 2 UL central stations that really differentiates us from the competition. We ensure that we monitor and protect the people and the property and the profits for the systems that we install.
So, Greg, I didn't come up in this business through the fire side. So there's a lot about fire I don't know, which makes this not only informative for our audience, but makes it informative for me also. Fire alarm systems tend to be very code-driven. And that code tends to, at least from my experience, tends to be a bit different, whether or not we're talking about a standard commercial property, multifamily, industrial. How much do codes play a role in exactly what's installed, serviced, and monitored?
Most important distinction is the occupancy of a building. There's 10 different occupancy classifications, and the different occupancy has different requirements. It's important for us to know what the occupancies are and the requirements that are associated with them.
So I always hear about different levels of codes, right? Yeah. NFPA codes. And then we also hear about the AHJ, the authority having jurisdiction, who has the right, if I've got this correct, to modify those codes for his or her desire in their own particular community. Is that true? And if so, why is that?
It's close to being true. So there's different standards through NFPA, and there's different codes through the I-Series International Building Codes and of the sort. What's really important for us to remember is those codes are required to be adopted by a jurisdiction. And the AHJ's job is to enforce the codes as they're adopted. So what we do see, Scott, is we see differences throughout the country based on how the codes that are intended to be universal in nature, they have differences based on how they're adopted. So there is nuance depending on the different jurisdictions where we're working.
So let me just push on that for a moment. So let's make the assumption that we've installed a system in Green Bay, Wisconsin, right? Home of Zeus Hub Martin Systems. And it's been installed to code. Sure. Plans have been signed off on. System's been installed. It's been inspected. It's been tested. We know we've got great signals in the monitoring center. We're ready to go. And the AHJ is going to come in for a walkthrough. Sure. Can that AHJ at that time ask for something different than what was already approved? Can they ask to add a device or maybe even remove a device?
Sure, they can ask for things. What's really important is how we differentiate ourselves and earn the trust of the AHJs. We look at it as a partnership, right? We're here the same way that the AHJ's here. It's ultimately for the same reason. It's to protect the people and the property and the profits at the associated building. So what I found is when they're asking for something, it may be a code requirement that may have been missed, or it may be something that's just desired by that AHJ. And what's important is for us to understand what that it is, so we can approach it collaboratively to ensure that we're both meeting code and ensuring that we're being mindful of the client's project expenses.
Got it. So my experience in this industry is that it's much easier to install a system from scratch than to take over a system that's been already installed. You walk in a facility and you try to replace a system that's been there for 10 years. That tends to be more complicated. In the world of fire, I imagine it's even more complicated than that. How do we deal with legacy systems that need to be upgraded to either meet code or meet a client's requirement?
And there's particular nuance with fire alarm systems. There are many that are considered proprietary. In order for us to upgrade or replace parts of the system, we have to ensure that it's part of that system package. So for that example, we need to ensure that we either replace in like and kind with compliant parts, meaning same manufacturer, or often what we find is that we need to upgrade the system and ensure that the input devices are all replaced.
Got it. So compliant parts would be great. If a system's not too old, those parts are likely available. But if a system's 20 years old, compliant parts might be difficult. You'd be looking more of a full upgrade at that point. Am I reading that right?
You are. And 20 to 25 years is really the life expectancy of a fire alarm system. So we often see when there's issues with a system and it starts to age out, that's when it becomes cost prohibitive for the client to try and maintain that system. It's usually more cost effective to have a partner that you trust that can come up with the best, most appropriate code compliant upgrade replacement strategy.
Yeah, I guess there's a kind of a tipping point, right, between working with a client to figure out how to upgrade that system in the most cost effective manner, but also make sure they're going to get another 10, 15, 20, 25 years, or maybe even replace the whole system, as you said, with a vendor that you trust, so that together you can decide, hey, maybe we should spend a little more money today, get it right, and get that next 25 years taken care of.
Absolutely. It's a great point. What we see so often is that customers don't have the opportunity to partner with someone that is both qualified and that they trust, so we can look at the big picture, right? What's the cost over the long term? What's the smartest and the best decision to make for the people and for the property that you're protecting?
So the fire industry is driven by code and compliance. What are the biggest challenges we face with code and compliance? And what are the biggest challenges the industry faces regarding code and compliance?
Great question. One of the things that I see most frequently is that individuals don't have the qualifications that's necessary to understand these nuances that we were discussing. That's why at Zeus we're large proponents of NICET, National Institute for Certification in Engineering Technologies. It's an organization that really confirms the qualifications by others. And at Zeus, we're big promoters in having our employees trained and certified so that way we can ensure that they understand the nuance and they're able to separate themselves from the competition by knowing exactly what is required and having that knowledge so that they can best approach these complicated situations to provide the highest level of service for our clients.
So NICET certification, which I know you teach classes, right,
Yes,
to help certify our own technicians across the Zeus network. But NICET certification not only helps our salespeople and installers better understand how to install a system, codes associated with it, but also creates a bit of a differentiator in the marketplace.
Absolutely.
Because we get to say, hey, we've got NICET certified employees who by default should know more about systems than just about anybody else.
Absolutely. Listen, not having NICET doesn't necessarily mean anything, but having NICET means that there's been an independent professional organization that's been able to validate that our team is outside operating at a higher level than the competition.
So that's another way that Zeus can add value-added quality of service to our end users and the confidence that when we install systems, it's going to be installed properly.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in to the 3P's podcast, where we break down what it really takes to protect people, property, and profits. Greg, thanks again for being part of this 3-part series where your passion, insights, and experience really shine through. If you found value in today's conversation, be sure to check out the other episodes in this series where Greg and I dive deeper into fire monitoring takeovers and inspect and test programs. At Zeus, we believe that smart systems start with better conversations. Thanks again for listening, and remember, at Zeus, we're better when we're together.